Undercover Boss walks into his own electronics store to buy a laptop, but freezes when he hears an elderly woman begging at the counter, "Please, I can't afford that extra charge. You said it was $599. What he discovers next will shake the company to its core. EagleTech wasn't just a store, it was a promise. For over 2 decades, it stood as a beacon for families buying their child's first school laptop, for college students on tight budgets, for small business owners scraping by but needing reliable tech. The fluorescent lights, the clean counters, the friendly tech support, it all felt like home. People trusted EagleTech. It meant fairness, simplicity, integrity. But lately, that trust had started to rot. Customer service lines were backed up. Online reviews turned sour. Words like scam, hidden fees, and manipulated into financing began appearing more and more frequently. Reports came in of elderly customers being sold overpriced warranty packages they didn't understand. College kids pressured into opening high-interest credit cards for laptops they could never afford. Parents returning home only to find the brand new laptop was actually refurbished. At first, Nathaniel Grant, the company's founder and CEO, didn't want to believe it. He had built EagleTech from a mall kiosk, selling discounted USB drives and refurbished desktops with a dream in his eyes and barely a few $100s in his pocket. He had lived in his van to make ends meet. He earned the company's growth, every inch of it. He remembered the customers by name, remembered staying after hours just to make sure someone's hard drive was saved. That was the kind of business he believed in. But growth had a cost. As the company expanded, he had to let go. He put his faith in a team of regional managers and executives. "Let the data drive the decisions," they told him. "The bigger picture matters now." And for a while he believed them. Sales were up, stores were expanding, the board was thrilled. But Nathaniel couldn't ignore the feeling deep in his gut. Something wasn't right. The customer complaints weren't just noise. They were stories of betrayal. Stories that mirrored the kind of predatory practices EagleTech was built to fight against. And when a young single mother wrote that her tax refund was drained on a laptop she didn't need, bundled with 3 different mandatory services, Nathaniel had to stop pretending everything was okay. The data didn't show heartbreak, but the stories did. And Nathaniel Grant was about to find out the truth, not as CEO, but as a customer. Nathaniel ditched the tailored suits and luxury car. He put on a worn hoodie, old sneakers, and brought out his dusty college backpack. He became Nate Green, a recently laid-off office worker with $700 to spend on a laptop for remote work. He walked into one of his highest-grossing EagleTech stores in downtown Chicago. What he experienced inside was nothing short of betrayal. Nathaniel, now undercover as Nate, wandered quietly into the laptop section, clutching a small notepad and an old flip phone, playing the part of a laid-off worker trying to get back on his feet. He stood by the display table for over 5 minutes. No greetings, no offers of help, not just glances from employees too busy joking with each other or checking their watches. He picked up a modest laptop with a bright yellow tag. "On sale, $599. He turned it over in his hands, examining it like someone who didn't know much about computers but was trying his best to make the right choice. It was all part of the act, but the loneliness of standing there, ignored, felt very real. Finally, a young salesman with slick back hair and a toothy grin swaggered over. His badge read, "Ricky Tech Expert." Ricky, smirking, half interested. "Yo, boss man, you lost or just laptop shopping?" Nate, nodding politely, looking for something reliable. "I just got laid off and picked up some freelance work, emails, Zoom calls, spreadsheets. Budget's about $700 all in." Ricky's eyes flickered toward the $599 model. Ricky quickly shaking his head. "Oof, not that one. Sure, it looks good, but it's gonna freeze the second you open more than 2 tabs. Trust me, man, you don't want slow tech killing your new gig." He pivoted, motioning Nate toward a shinier, sleeker laptop on a higher shelf. Ricky, pitching with enthusiasm. "This baby right here? Intel i7 SSD, backlit keyboard, full HD display, fast as hell. And if you buy it today, I'll throw in antivirus and optimization for free." Nate, cautiously. "How much is it?" Ricky, shrugging. "Retail? $1,300, but I can get you out the door for $1,200. If we skip the extended warranty, you'll thank me later. Nate, confused. That's nearly double my budget. Ricky leaned in, lowering his voice as if confiding a secret. Ricky, grinning. I know, but the cheap stuff's just bait. Nobody serious buys that. I mean, come on. This is your career now, right? Nate returned to the $599 laptop and pointed at the sale tag. Nate, what about this one? Says $599, Ricky, hesitating, then smoothly recovering. Yeah, so here's the thing. That's before the essentials. Nate, narrowing his eyes. What essentials? Ricky tapped on a tablet and began reciting the list like it was gospel. Ricky, $100 for our protection suite, antivirus, malware guard, VPN trial, $80 setup fee, updates, driver installation, power optimization, and $70 for the eco-compliance charge. Nate, stunned. Eco-compliance? What's that? Ricky, shrugging. Corporate policy, packaging, recycling, stuff like that. It's just how it works these days. Nate's eyebrows shot up. Nate, dryly. So the $599 laptop ends up costing $849? Ricky didn't flinch. In fact, he smiled wider, as if he just landed a sale. Ricky, exactly. But hey, it's still under $1,000, and you get peace of mind. Plus, we can set you up with our in-house credit line if you need to spread it out. Nate's chest tightened. He wasn't angry yet. He was heartbroken. This wasn't a slick upsell. It was manipulation, dressed up in charm, sold with a smile, the kind of pitch that preyed on desperation. He was about to ask another question when a frail voice behind him broke through the store noise. Elderly woman, soft, shaking. You said it was $599. Why is it so much more now? Nathaniel turned instinctively. Near the front counter stood a petite woman in her 70s, her silver hair neatly pinned back, her posture frail but proud. In one hand, she held a thin paper receipt that trembled with her fingers. Standing beside her was a teenage boy, maybe 16, wearing a worn hoodie and clutching a backpack, her grandson most likely. The boy looked from his grandmother to the cashier, brows furrowed with quiet frustration. Grandson, firm but polite. You told us it was $600. We even asked twice. Why are we being charged almost $900 now? Behind the counter, the store manager stood with arms crossed. His name tag read Greg Owens, store leader, but there was nothing leader-like in his demeanor. He looked down at them, not with concern, but with barely concealed annoyance. Greg, flatly, Ma'am, the $599 is just the base price. The upgrade package, setup, and compliance fees are mandatory. It's store policy. Elderly woman, confused. I don't understand. I didn't ask for any upgrade. I just wanted a computer for my grandson's school. Nathaniel stepped forward a few feet, his hands clenched into fists inside his hoodie pocket. Grandson, raising his voice. You didn't say anything about upgrades. You told us this was all included. Greg, sighing, irritated. It's all in the fine print. Maybe you should have read the full invoice before paying. The boy blinked, stunned. His grandmother looked crushed. Her face collapsed with a quiet sort of shame, not because she made a mistake, but because she trusted someone who took advantage of her. Elderly woman, whispering, I used my social security check. This was supposed to help him start school. I can't afford another bill next month. Greg didn't blink. Greg, shrugging. If you didn't want the extras, you should have said something earlier. It's already processed. Nathaniel felt something in his chest twist, tight and bitter. This wasn't just a bad business practice. It was cruel. He had seen enough, and in that moment, the mission changed. He wasn't just here to observe anymore. He was going to stop this. He took a breath, steadying himself, then glanced at Ricky, who suddenly looked very interested in the floor tiles. Nathaniel knew he had to play it smart. No outburst, no blowing his cover. Not yet. But inside, the CEO had just woken up. Nathaniel turned back to Ricky, his jaw clenched, voice low but sharp. Nate, quiet, tense. Is this what you do with everyone? Ricky's smirk vanished. He looked around, nervous. The confidence that once coated his every word now peeled away like cheap paint under pressure. Ricky swallowing hard. Look, man, it's how we hit our targets. We're told to push the high-margin packages. Greg says if we don't get people on warranties, setup plans, and credit apps, we're not trying hard enough. Nathaniel stepped in closer. Nate, ice cold. Especially on people who seem… what? Vulnerable? Ricky looked away, shame creeping into his voice. Ricky, mumbling. He says go for the ones who won't argue, the ones who trust us. Seniors, broke families, kids with nervous parents. Says they're easier. Nathaniel's blood boiled. Nate, disgusted. Like that woman? The one spending her Social Security check? Ricky winced. His eyes were glossy, his voice barely a whisper. Ricky, guilty. I didn't know it was going to be like this. I just wanted a sales job. First month, I didn't hit my quota, and Greg chewed me out in front of the team. Said I'd be replaced. So I did what he told me, every word, every trick. He trained us to sell guilt, not laptops. Nathaniel exhaled slowly. His disappointment wasn't just with Greg. It was with himself. He had let this place become a machine that turned decent people into manipulators. Even Ricky, a young man just trying to hold a job, had been twisted into a pawn. But the game was over. Nathaniel, soft but resolute. Thank you for telling me the truth. And with that, he turned and walked toward the manager's office. His pace slow, deliberate. He wasn't Nate anymore. He was Nathaniel Grant, and Judgment Day had arrived. The door to the office creaked as Nathaniel pushed it open. Greg Owens was hunched over his laptop, sipping coffee with one hand and scrolling through spreadsheets with the other. He didn't even glance up. Greg, irritated. Hey, employees only. If you've got a complaint, take it to customer care. Nathaniel reached into his hoodie and pulled out his wallet. Slowly, he flipped it open and revealed his EagleTech corporate ID. Nathaniel calmly, I am customer care. I'm also the CEO. Greg looked up, and his face drained of color in an instant. He stood up, stammering, panic spreading across his face like a crack in glass. Greg, forcing a smile. Mr. Grant, I didn't recognize you. I mean, we didn't know you were coming, sir. If someone gave you attitude, I can speak to them right away. Nathaniel, cutting him off. Sit down. Greg froze. Nathaniel, voice like stone. I watched you lie to a customer. I watched you humiliate an elderly woman who trusted your word. I watched your team trick her out of her savings. Greg's voice trembled as he tried to spin it. Greg, nervous laugh. Sir, with all due respect, that's just how retail works now. Everyone's doing it. People don't read the fine print. We just package things for efficiency. Nathaniel leaned forward. Nathaniel, low and lethal. You didn't package anything. You deceived. You trained my staff to prey on people's trust. You took pride in it. You turned my store into a trap. Greg held up his hands like a man being wrongfully accused. Greg panicked. We need those add-ons to survive. Warranties, markups. If we don't upsell, we can't compete. I was doing what was best for the company. Nathaniel, furious but composed. You were doing what was best for your bonus. Greg tried one last desperate play. Greg, pleading. Ricky, he agreed to all of it. I didn't force anyone. They all knew what we were doing. From the hallway, Ricky stood silently, hearing everything. His face was pale, jaw clenched. Ricky, quiet from the door. No, you didn't force us, but you told us we were worthless if we didn't cheat. You threatened me, Greg. I didn't know how to stop. Greg turned toward Ricky. Greg, desperate. Don't do this. Don't turn on me now. If you're still watching, now's the moment to subscribe. Stories like this deserve to be told. Real CEOs, real consequences, and the kind of justice you rarely see. This is Undercover Files. Hit that subscribe button and let's finish what Nathaniel started. Nathaniel, firm, final. Stop. He stepped closer to Greg, eyes blazing with the fury of a man who had just watched his legacy almost burn down. Nathaniel, Greg Owens, you're fired. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out. Greg opened his mouth to protest, but nothing came out. The man who had ruled the store like a petty tyrant now looked hollow, exposed. Nathaniel, to the staff. And if anyone else shares his mindset, you can leave now too. But if you've been afraid to speak up, if you want to do things the right way, I'm staying, and I'm rebuilding. There was silence. Then Ricky stepped forward. His voice cracked, but he stood tall. Ricky, teary-eyed. I want to stay. I want to make it right. Nathaniel nodded. One less pawn. One more human being finally free of the game. And as Greg was escorted out, muttering to himself, stripped of power and title, Nathaniel felt something shift in the air. For the first time in a long time, this store had a chance to be honest again. For the next 7 days, Nathaniel barely left his office. He didn't delegate. He didn't hide behind PR teams or canned emails. He personally called every single customer who had been taken advantage of at that store. One by one. No scripts, just sincerity. Some of the conversations were short. Others turned into tearful stories. Nathaniel listened to them all. The single mother who skipped groceries to cover her first payment. The recent immigrant who signed papers without fully understanding them. The retired veteran who thought he was getting a discount but was charged for mandatory extras. Nathaniel apologized to each of them, not as a CEO, but as a man who had failed to protect what he built. Nathaniel repeating over and over, voice steady, I'm sorry, this wasn't what EagleTech was meant to be, and I promise, we're making it right. When he got to the name Miriam Hoffman, his heart paused. The elderly woman, the one whose trembling voice had snapped him out of corporate blindness. He didn't send an assistant. He got in his car and drove. Her home was modest, a small brick house with a wheelchair ramp and flower beds in need of tending. Her grandson opened the door, startled to see a stranger holding a large, neatly wrapped laptop box. Nathaniel, gentle. Hi, is Miriam home? I think I owe her an apology. The grandson called her softly, and when she appeared, her eyes widened in shock. She recognized him instantly, not from a magazine or a boardroom, but from the store. Miriam, quietly confused. You were there, that day. Nathaniel nodded and placed the box in her hands. Nathaniel, soft. I came to say thank you. You reminded me of what this company was supposed to be. This one's on me. No fees, no tricks. Just a promise that EagleTech will never treat anyone like that again. Her hands trembled again, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from relief. Miriam tearfully. You didn't have to do this. Nathaniel, his voice cracking. I did, because I forgot what mattered, and you reminded me. They hugged, not as strangers, not as customer and CEO, but as people, connected by the simple truth that honesty matters. EagleTech changed. Warranties became optional. Prices became clear. Staff were retrained. Sales dropped at first, but trust came back. Nathaniel stood outside the store one evening, watching families walk in. No one was being pressured. No one walked out confused. That's the business he'd always wanted. Sometimes it takes going undercover to realize just how far your company has drifted. But if you're willing to face the truth, you can build something better. Subscribe to Undercover Files for more real CEO stories, more drama, and the truth that corporations don't want you to see.